Hey guys, how's it going again? So happy New Year again. So as promised in my most anticipated films of 2026, that I was going to be going through my top 10 and honorable mentions of movies that released in 2025. So let's go. So my honorable mentions this year is I'm looking at my list right now, but I saw like 81 movies this year, so it's a lot. So the average person might be like, "Oh, my their honorable mention or lower than the list is maybe like their favorite films of the year." But for me, because I saw so many movies this year, it's lower in the list. But that doesn't mean it's not bad or not great. It's just lower down my list. So like I think there's like about 10 films on my honorable list. So on my honorable list, I'd have say movies like Last Breath I really enjoyed, the live action How to Train Your Dragon I really enjoyed, Final Destination Bloodlines, Avatar and Wicked I both liked, didn't love. They weren't my top 10. Thunderbolts and Superman, and I'd even say that my three favorite comic book films were say I think it's Thunderbolts and Superman and Fantastic Four. They're interchangeable because I've watched Fantastic Four. I only watched Fantastic Four once. I've seen Superman more often than once because I think it's a more easy for them to go into. But I think aesthetic wise, I still like Fantastic Four a bit better. And then if you go up the list, I have films like Roofman. You got Bad Guys 2, In Your Dreams, which I just watched, which I really enjoyed. Bring Her Back, which is great performances by Sally Hawkins. Friendship, and then if you go toward the tail end of my top 10, you have films like The Rule of Jenny Penn, which is Jeffrey Rush and Jonathan Lithgow. Then you have Looney Tunes: The Day the Earth Blew Up, which was hilarious. I saw that back in March. John Candy, I Like Me, Fantastic Four: First Steps, and then Penguin Lessons. All those are my recommendations of the top of the year. Okay, so now let's get to my top 10. So my number 10 film is something I actually just saw recently, and it's Hamnet. So Hamnet is directed by Chloe Zhao, and it's basically the story of um, Shakespeare, like the Shakespeare love interest of how their son Hamnet. If you know the play of Hamlet, I won't say much of that, but having recently just saw it, it was like such a visual experience. The first two thirds they started, I'm like, I'm enjoying this, but at the end, there's like a change in pace and story. I don't usually cry in movies, but I had some tears in this movie. So Hamnet is an absolutely beautiful and visual experience of a film. So that's number 10. Number 9 is The Long Walk, which I said in my my short review for Long Walk. That's actually my favorite Stephen King adaptation of this year. So yeah, very visceral performances. The tension's great. That's number 9. Number 8 is a movie that I had this higher up my list at the start of the year when I first saw it because I hadn't seen other films around 2025, and that is Sinners. Because I just watched Sinners. I wanted to kind of refresh my memory on certain movies, and my memory of Sinners when I first saw it, I was like, this is really good. But I found maybe it's because like I was watching it at home compared to a theater experience, which the theater experience was phenomenal. But watching it home, comparing to the other films, it's still in my top 10, but the other ones I've found for myself personally, they're a bit more fast paced, and I would find myself maybe going back to these movies more than I would for Sinners. So Sinners is number 9. Number 8 is something recently I saw, which is Wake Up Dead Man, which floored me because this is on as good as the first Knives Out film, with great performances by um, Andrew Scott and Glenn Close and Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig doesn't even show up to like 40 minutes of the movie, and you're still riveted by the plot. So that's number 10, 9, 8. That's number 7. Number 6 is the only animated film I have in my top 10, which is you see my review recently. It's Zootopia 2 because I had a blast with this movie. This movie was like the one-liners, the jokes, the way the story had a through line to the whole thing, and everything they were doing made sense to the plot. I had a great time. So that's number 6. That's number 6 on my top 10. Zootopia 2. Number 5 is a movie that when I start watching the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, it's like how are we gonna do with this movie and be a parody of comedies in general, because comedies haven't been that great comparable to the most recent the more recent comedies and films. and that is Paramount Pictures with Liam Neeson, The Naked Gun. This movie is so dumb, but I found myself I got up from the library and I was watching it and I'm like, no, I've watched the whole thing again because like I found it really funny, and it's one of those movies you can put on the background and you see the jokes just constantly work in the background and they're great. So that's number 5. Number 4 is Weapons, because Weapons, that was a really cool theater experience, and the way that it tied into everything. And I feel as though that this year in general, horror had a very banger year for everything that was released, for the varieties of horror. And Weapons is definitely in my top 10 of the year. So that's number 4 is Weapons. Number 3, like I said in my review, it actually was lower down on my list. But you know what? I saw this movie back in September and every single month since, and I'm like, I keep thinking about this movie. And I did find the first 2 minute pacing a little bit off, but then I thought back to it and I'm like, no, that all makes sense with the story. And number 3 is One Battle After Another. Because I keep thinking about this movie and back and forth between, say, Frankenstein and Sean Penn. Sean Penn is incredible in this movie. Leo DiCaprio was hilarious. The scene with him, like outside of the phone booth, and he's like, "What time is it?" Like you have the start, and it's like it set things up for that. But like once it's like in the time jump and stuff, and it's just like some hilarious and upbeat, and the music I found with the overlay between that. So that's number 3, One Battle After Another. Number 2, which I just mentioned recently, is something I saw at TIFF, and is a film experience that I really had a visceral experience with, and that is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Now, this probably was a bit more higher on my list because of my theater experience and the fact that I went in with high expectations, but I had heard other people like they had low expectations. I wanted to see exactly what they were doing. But number 2 is Frankenstein, because I really enjoyed how you started the movie off with a backstory, and then you went like the current plot, current day. Then you went back in time and told Victor's story. I'm like, okay, how is this going to go? And then it told like both respective stories at the same time. And I found myself going back and watching clips of like when Frankenstein's in like the ice, like the Arctic land, and toward the end of the film, and he's like, "Here, take this lighter," and he takes the lighter, explodes himself. He just slowly merges himself like that. The visual effects, the costume, the effects, the design, living in that Guillermo del Toro world, the fact that he has deemed the Frankenstein movie as his Bible, he absolutely nailed this movie as one of my favorite Frankenstein films. So that's number 2 in Frankenstein. Now, number 1 is a movie that when I saw it, I said, if this movie, because I saw this at TIFF, if this movie was released in 2025, it'd be in my top 5 for sure. And I was looking at the release schedule and it said this film released in the UK. It hasn't got a Canadian or US release. But I was thinking, I was like, there are other films I saw at TIFF, like Eternal Return, which hasn't had a release, or even films like The Coral, that also released in the States just recently, 2026, but the UK released in that. And if you look at things like The Mother and the Bear, that didn't release until actually this spring. So number 1, which is something I saw at TIFF, is Robert Armeu's I Swear. The reason why this movie is my number 1 movie of the year, because I was thinking about it and I didn't know much going into it. And as I described in my review, I'm on the spectrum, and the way that they were depicting, not on the spectrum, but with Tourette syndrome, and how the trials and tribulations of someone dealing with that condition in the 80s, and how it's such a difficult situation. And when the actor came on the stage after the screening of the movie, I was looking, I'm like, I expected him to start having the tics, because I'm like, I was so engaged in the movie. I thought the man actually had Tourette syndrome. That's how well this movie was produced and how well acted he did. And it gave me insight about like how the advancements of Tourette syndrome with technology, and every single since I've seen I Swear, the one movie I keep thinking to my friends and family, it's like, okay, what do I want to watch again? What do I want to watch again? It's like, what do I want to recommend my friends and family? It's I Swear. It was Frankenstein was number 2 for the longest time, and then it came out. But I Swear hasn't released yet, and I'm still like saying I want to show this to my family and friends. So that's why it's my number 1 favorite movie of the film of the year. So we go back from 10 to 1. So we have 10, Hamnet; 9, Long Walk; 8, Sinners; 7, Wake Up Dead Men and Knives Out Mystery; 6, Zootopia 2; 5, Naked Gun. 4, Weapons. 3, One Battle After Another. 2, Frankenstein. And number 1 film of 2025 is I Swear. So yeah, thanks for watching my my very long, in-depth top 10 movie review, top 10 films of 2025. Coming soon is that I'll be posting a bunch of awards stuff based around like throughout the months of March, January, February, March, and then in March, like I said, I'm seeing Project Hail Mary, I'm seeing Hoppers, and then other films I have based around kind of maybe say like themed weeks, where like for example we have the latest 28 Days Later, but I'll be reviewing something based that's also based around a fourth installment releasing in theaters. So yeah, like and subscribe for more movie reviews, and let your comment below what your favorite film of the year was, what you're looking forward to 2026, and let me know what other stuff you like to see covered on the YouTube channel. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.